Alright guys, so just to follow up to my last video, got a couple of accessories for this Anbernic RG CubeXX. I got these off AliExpress, so I got this rubber skin, which I actually quite like this. It was cheap, it was like £4 or £5 on AliExpress. And I've also got a screen protector, tempered glass screen protector. You might be able to see, you probably can't see here, but you can just about see the edge of it. But that was, again, a very cheap buy off AliExpress. It was about £3 delivered, I think. So that's under 10 quid for the skin and the screen protector. This was what the screen protector came in. That says Glass Screen Pro. In case you're wondering, that sticker's ripped off the L and the A from glass there. And that's a screen protector that also works on the standard Anbernic RG Cube as well, because they've got exactly the same screen. So yeah, that screen protector was about £3. The skin was about £4, £5, and it adds these bumps to the back for a bit more grip. And it does make the thing feel a little bit more bulky, but I actually think it feels quite cool. It feels a bit bigger for someone with big hands like me. Definitely feels like you've got a bit more to hold on to. Yeah, so let's just go through a couple more of the games. I've added some favourites. The other thing I did was got a second SD card for it. So this one here is the OS card now. That's just got the Rocknix custom firmware and no games. And all the games are on this card, which I just formatted on my PC as a exFAT. And as soon as you put that in the card slot with Rocknix running, it recognises a empty card and it puts the file structure on there for the ROMs. So it automatically creates a ROMs folder, and then within that it makes all the folders for all the different emulators and cores that Rocknix uses. And then after you've done that, you can just take the card back out again, put it in your PC, and add all your ROMs to the correct folders. Put it back in, turn it on, and voila, we get all this extra stuff that's on here now that wasn't on here when I made the first video. We've got Master System, Game Gear, Mega Drive, Sharp X68000 home PC. And I've added a few games to my favourites. So, as I've said on a few forums and stuff, I've been testing out how this game runs with various shmups, which is why I got a square screen handheld in the first place. So it runs Dodonpachi and Donpachi fine. But if you go to any of the later games, so say if you wanted to play Dodonpachi 3, for instance, which I believe runs on the Cave 1000 hardware. This is the kind of performance you're going to get, unfortunately. Oh, yeah, let's have a look. Dodonpachi 3 does actually run okay. Let's put the screen. Okay, forgive me there. Dodonpachi is not a Cave 1000 hardware game, so this actually does run nice. So it'll be any of the Dodonpachi games after this one, the ones that came out after 2003. So let's skip that. Let's go to one of the later Cave games. You can see it's taking a long time to load. Put fast forward on. Yeah, okay, so any of the games that boot up like this As you can see, this one is dated 2008. You know it's not going to work, because it takes about 3 minutes just to load this boot up. So Dodonpachi Dai Fukatsu. See, I've put it on fast forward, but it's still taking ages to boot the arcade ROMs. And if I look at the FPS there, it was at 25 just now. Now I've got to wait for this bit to come up. If anyone's interested in any of the accessories I bought, I'll put links to them, AliExpress links. But of course, they're just generic items on AliExpress, so those links will just be a guide. You'll be able to buy exactly the same things off hundreds of different buyers. Yeah, so as you can see, we're getting very choppy sound. I have played around with the emulator, various settings in RetroArch, disabling sound, changing various little settings in RetroArch which could potentially make the game run a bit faster, but it's just been a waste of time. This game just is not going to run. Games like Mushihime-sama, games based on the Cave 1000 hardware that came out after 2003 or 2004 thereabouts, and every game after that from Cave just isn't going to run at full speed on here. So you see I'm getting 32 FPS. So I'll quit out of that. So that just leaves some of the games that do run well on here. Now here's one I really like. This is Air Assault by M.A.M.E. This is just a really cool vertical shmup. It's completely anonymous. It's basically a heavily Raiden influenced vertical shmup from M.A.M.E. So you've got the Great copying the Great there. It's a shame when big names like M.A.M.E. had to resort to ripping off other famous games when they had previously been making such influential games themselves when they first started. But that's what happens. So I imagine this one was coming out towards the end of M.A.M.E.'s arcade games, wasn't it? They carried on a bit longer doing console games, but I don't think they even exist anymore. Not in any real sense anyway, maybe just as a brand name. Anyway, this is a really cool game, and the reason I play this one quite a lot is it's actually very fair. I can probably get to like stage 5 or 6 without dying once. Of course, I'll probably die now, having said that, as is what usually happens on YouTube videos. But anyway, yeah, so I'll finish the game with 3 credits. So it's not a 1cc yet, but a 3cc. I'm a very average player, so a 3cc clear for any arcade shmup for me is good. So I reckon I could get this down to a 1cc after a bit more practice. That's Air Assault. And of course it'll run PC Engine fine. Actually, let's try PC Engine CD. I put all my PC Engine CD ROMs on here recently. So this is Ginga Fukai Densetsu. Sapphire. That's the one. I'm trying to remember the last word of the name there. Basically, just call it Sapphire for the PC Engine CD. You have a few options here. I found that PC Engine games look good if you go into RetroArch. Go to aspect ratio 1:1 PAR. So it gives you slightly distorted, slightly stretched vertically, but not too much. And it just fills this square screen out nicely. And as I said before, of course, this does have plenty of power to play PC Engine CD, Mega Drive CD games, what have you. This game's hard as nails. I don't intend on playing this one for very long. I will die. These nice morphing effects in the background there, pretty impressive for a 1980s console. This whole game's very impressive, of course. It's going to have no problem running Game Boy, Super Nintendo. Runs Game Boy Advance fine. I haven't tried much Nintendo DS much yet. Now, obviously, DS is a good option for this square screen because you want a lot of verticality for DS games. Now, I hope this is going to work. I haven't really played around with the DS emulator much yet. Hopefully, it'll just boot up first time. So it's showing the screen side by side at the moment. There you go. So I pressed L2 there. So it's set it to the way you'd want to play a game like this, for instance. Just put the old frame counter on, see how. Okay, the frame counter indicator doesn't work on this emulator. Not with the usual method anyway. Let's start the game off. Obviously that's not the right button to start. Let's try that one. There you go. Let's just check out what emulator this is actually using at the moment. I can't do that, unfortunately. I think that's running a bit slow, isn't it? Let's come out of this. Let's see if we can work out what emulator it's using. This might be interesting for people. So I go to Advanced System Options, and you get a choice of, with Rocknix, get a choice of these emulators. So you've got M.A.M.E, a couple of different versions of MEL and DS, and Drastic. So if I tell it to use Drastic, let's try Contra 4 again. See what kind of performance we get this time. Still not great. I think this must be what it was using before. Let's try changing to one of the others. Let's try M.A.M.E DS. See how this reacts. Now that does show the FPS, but that's running way worse than Drastic, as you can see. And let's try M.A.M.E. Oh, at least that's booted up in vertical screen orientation straight away. Looks like it's running slow though. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? So these are the stock options with Rocknick's custom firmware. It looks like I wouldn't recommend this device for DS. Some games I did get Contra working well with Drastic on the original firmware that came with the Cube, well, on the original SD card OS which came with it. So Contra was running pretty well. Doesn't seem to be running so well now with Rocknick's, but I've probably got some settings to go in and change. I could probably get that working better. But on the whole, I wouldn't recommend this for anything beyond the 32-bit PS1, not Saturn, unfortunately. It doesn't run Saturn. But PS1 and below, that includes all the handhelds, GBA, 16-bit, 8-bit, and a lot of M.A.M.E, but not all of M.A.M.E. As I demonstrated, it can't do the later 2000s games in M.A.M.E. I'd recommend it for all of those stuff, and that is the majority of which the kind of stuff that I'm interested in. But mainly I'm interested in vertical shmups, and I am luckily mostly interested in the late 80s, early 90s period. So let's do something like Saucer Striker maybe. This is a really cool game. One of Rising's first games. I think it is their first game actually. 1993. Put the screen. So you're going to get no problems with a game of this vintage running at a constant 60 FPS there. This is a really cool game if you're into this kind of vintage of early 90s shmups. Really nice detailed graphics, kind of weird military fantasy crossover kind of art style. Really cool game. And I have put a turbo fire toggle so I can hold down L2 on a game like this to turn auto fire on. And well, just to finish off, I'll show you how I do that. So if I go into RetroArch settings, go to general RetroArch settings, which is that item on the left there. Input. Then you go to turbo fire. And I've got turbo mode set to classic toggle. And then the turbo bind is the L2 trigger. And here you set the firing rate. And I think duty cycle is that's all part of the speed of turbo fire as well. I think I just leave that on 1 most of the time. I think that's the length of time that the button is actually held down. And 6 is the frequency that the button is pressed per frame, I think. So say six times per frame, maybe. I don't know, I'm not an expert on stuff like that. Maybe you could tell me in the comments. But anyway, so because I've got classic toggle and L2 there, that's enabled me to turn turbo fire on for these M.A.M.E games, which is kind of essential for a lot of M.A.M E, I would say. I'm not someone that likes pressing the fire button over and over again for arcade games. Anyway, well, that's it really. So any more questions, just ask. But see you on the next one.